Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into a seriously fascinating source text that completely flips the script on something every single one of us has to face: getting older. Most of us just kind of accept aging as this inevitable, one-way street to physical decline, right? But the ancient wisdom and some pretty intense real-world anecdotes that we're going to look at today suggest a totally different perspective. We're going to break down how to actually separate the inevitable passing of time from the preventable conditions that literally wear our bodies down way before their time. So I want you to think about this question. Is aging a natural stage of life, or is it actually a preventable mental disease? Now, if you pose this to most people, they'll just shrug and say it's simply biology. But the text puts forward this wild, provocative proposition. It argues that while the passing of years is an unavoidable biological fact, the frailty and the despair that we usually associate with old age is actually a psychological failure. It's a disease of the mind that ends up manifesting physically in the body.
All right, let's jump right into section 1, natural versus unnatural aging. The text makes this absolutely stark, yet really beautiful contrast here. It describes natural aging as something that holds its own unique reverence. Sure, the body's machinery naturally wears down, wrinkles show up, teeth might fall out, but the charm of a naturally aged person is actually compared to the glowing beauty of a young person's face. It commands genuine social respect. The text even points out that rowdy teenagers will naturally quiet down when a dignified elder enters the room. Natural aging brings this deep wisdom, mental joy, and an ability to experience profound spiritual and intellectual pleasures that young people literally cannot access yet. But then, on the flip side, we have unnatural aging, and this is described as a tragic state where a person feels totally helpless, drowning in despair and physical frailty, basically feeling like they are being dragged into the jaws of death against their own will.
Now, that second scenario, the agony, the terrible loss of vitality, the weeping over lost youth, the text classifies this not as biology, but as an unnatural, entirely preventable physical and mental disease, and it is fueled completely by despair. The most crucial takeaway here is that because this form of aging is unnatural, it means it can actually be cured and totally avoided. Which brings us to section 2, worry and premature old age. Dr. Gray drops this absolute bombshell of a thesis in the text, "Worry is man's old age." Let that sink in. It's not time, it's not the calendar ticking away, it is anxiety. Severe worry literally bypasses decades of biological clockwork. It instantly transforms young, perfectly healthy people into frail elders. And to back this up, the text presents us with a rapid-fire sequence of terrifying, real-world case studies. Let's look at a few of them. First up, we have the story of the widow. This was a middle-aged woman whose husband suddenly passed away, and she was left with the overwhelming burden of raising 5 children all on her own. The sheer, crushing anxiety of figuring out how to provide for her family completely consumed her. Get this, in just 1.5 years, her hair turned completely white and her back hunched over permanently. 18 months of intense worry literally did the physical damage of 30 years of time. Then there is the baker. This was a robust, healthy 45-year-old guy who ran a shop with his 2 sons. In a totally horrific tragedy, both of his sons died of pneumonia within a single week. The grief, as you can imagine, was inescapable. Within just 2 years of this happening, this strong, middle-aged businessman had completely deteriorated. He turned into a frail, emaciated old man who couldn't even walk without leaning heavily on a stick. His immense grief basically devoured his physical youth. Next, we look at the ship owner. This guy was a millionaire with a massive shipping empire worth millions of pounds. But by a stroke of absolutely terrible luck, all within a single year, 3 of his ships sank, 2 of his offices burned down, and to top it off, his bank collapsed. He lost everything and was staring down total bankruptcy. Now, the shock of losing his wealth and his status didn't take years to age him. No, the trauma turned this powerful, wealthy man into a decrepit, broken elder in a matter of days. Days. And finally, we have the hotel clerk, which is maybe the most mind-blowing of all. He wrongly suspected that his boss was plotting to frame him for a crime that carried a massive prison sentence. Terrified, the clerk fled. He lived completely on the run, hiding across different countries for 3 whole months. When he finally realized the threat was, well, actually, scratch that. It wasn't even a real threat. It was entirely in his head. But the damage was already done. This brilliantly shows the absolute danger of the mind. The threat was an illusion, yet the relentless daily panic turned every single hair on his head stark white in exactly 90 days. So how do we stop this? Let's move into section 3, freedom from mind and illusion.
The text doesn't just leave us with the problem, it lays out a very specific 3-step psychological shield. Step 1 is elevating yourself above worldly illusions, what the text refers to as Maya. This basically means truly internalizing that financial ruin, social status, and material possessions are temporary. They are literally not worth the physical destruction of your body. Step 2 is cultivating what they call a permanent divine smile. It's making a highly conscious choice to adopt cheerfulness as your default operating system. And step 3 is remaining unwavering. The text argues that a person who can master mental distress and keep this steadfast calm will effectively remain young right up until the moment they are laid on their deathbed.
All right, moving on to Section 4, Physical Restraint and Health. So we've talked about the mind, but the absolute first stepping stone to a long, healthy life on the physical side is dietary restraint. And the advice here is to totally ignore all the complicated modern health trends and just focus on a very simple rule. Do not eat until you feel a genuine, strong hunger. And when you do finally eat, chew your food thoroughly and make sure what you're eating is fresh, pure, and nutritious, what the text calls sattvic food. This kind of mindful restraint protects your body's internal machinery from grinding down and wearing out prematurely. Alongside diet, the source places immense emphasis on physical moderation, especially when it comes to sexual energy. It heavily warns against just acting impulsively on physical desires. Instead, the advice is that you should only engage in these acts thoughtfully, taking a real, honest look at your current health, your vitality, and whether the circumstances are appropriate. By exercising strict restraint and actively preserving this vital energy, you protect your whole body from profound systemic depletion.
Now, here's what I think is the most fascinating part about these physical rules. It's something called the cascade effect. You might be sitting there wondering, well, what about exercise or getting fresh air or bathing or my sleep schedule? Well, the source claims that if you strictly master just those 2 foundational inputs, mindful eating and physical moderation, literally everything else just takes care of itself. The mental clarity and the physical energy you gain from those 2 disciplines will automatically make you want to wake up early. You'll naturally seek out fresh air, you'll want to exercise, and you'll sleep perfectly. The healthy habits just become totally automatic. It's like a domino effect for your health.
So we've covered a lot today. We've looked at the dignity and beauty of natural aging, the devastating rapid physical toll of unchecked worry, and these profound ancient prescriptions for mental and physical restraint. The insights from this source are just incredibly powerful because, at the end of the day, they put the control right back in our own hands. So I really want to leave you with this final provocative thought. Look at your own life right now. How are you managing your daily stress? And by letting all these temporary worldly illusions consume your peace of mind, are you accidentally hitting the fast-forward button on your own unnatural aging? Thank you so much for exploring this source with me today. Protect your peace of mind, and I will see you in the next explainer.